All right. Y'all already know what it is. When you see this face, you know what's happening. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to Side Barz, Pantha Politix Network in full effect. Of course, I am Seven Da Pantha, aka the Carolina Hurricane, Ridiculous Slang, aka your baby mama's favorite rapper, and a whole lot of other things you shouldn't say to me in the streets unless your knuckle game ill, you feel me? And of course, I don't bring you nothing but the dope on here. Y'all already know it. So today, hey, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give y'all. You know what? We'll get into that in a minute. I'm gonna just introduce them. Today, we got UnLearn the World in the building. What's going on, family?
Yes, sir. Things is good, man. Blessings to you. Thank you for having me. Shit is lovely.
Yo, word, same to you, brother. I'm glad you're here, man. Like, listen, y'all. I did a y'all already know I got the joint with Sky Zoo that I dropped right before I moved out here to the West Coast.
That's
So
what's up.
so Zoo was the homie, and Sky Zoo was came through to Seattle December the 3rd, and was like, yo, my man hit me, was like, yo, Sky Zoo coming. I was like, y'all put me on the bill. So at the time, I didn't know who else was on the show. I got
Right.
there and I saw Unlearn the World. And y'all saw my interview with Lil Flower Nasty, you know that's my homie. Well, Unlearn the World and Lil Flower Nasty do a little work together, you know what I'm saying?
We did. Yes, sir. Yeah, I did
Needless.
her first EP. I produced it and co-wrote it.
Oh, that's what's up. Hell yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah. So,
when I said I only bring y'all the dope, let me tell y'all something. I stood in front of that stage and was absolutely positively blown away. Absolutely.
oh man, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you.
So
Thank you. That
so
means
when
a
he
lot.
dropped his album, The God That Sins, I ran to Bandcamp to buy it. I copped it.
Thank you.
Sure did.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much for that.
Oh
Really.
man. So I gotta ask, what started off here because I realized something about you while you was rapping that I didn't know. But I'm gonna
What's
let you
that?
tell them. Where you from?
I'm from New York City, born and raised, Washington Heights, New York. Stand up. You know
No
what I'm saying?
doubt.
Right above Harlem. This is, this is
No
the
doubt.
foundation. This is the home of it all. You know what I mean? I'd be
True
remiss
indeed.
if I don't represent that all the time.
True indeed. True indeed. Now see, in my mind, because of how I found out about you, I thought you were a West Coaster at first.
Yeah, no, that's an easy enough mistake to
You know
make.
what
I've
I'm saying?
been based in the Bay Area for like 15 years and didn't really hit the hip hop scene until like 2015. Like I wasn't like entrenched in the scene. I had just been, you know what I'm saying? Long story less long. I moved out to the Bay right after like the music industry really just chewed me up and spit me out the first time.
Oh
And I
man.
was just on some regular like 9 to 5. I'm gonna still put out music, but it's not my focus. And then like around 2014, 2015, my whole life changed. I was going through like a midlife crisis, and I said I got to really do this music shit. This is like it's an existential crisis for me. So I just started like grinding and putting it out there. And I said, as many mixtapes and projects as I put out, I said there's no way that this music is gonna go where it needs to go unless I'm out in the field touching the people. And
No
I
doubt.
started going out and really like shaking hands, kissing babies. Really got an opportunity from this. It was a weekly hip hop event in San Francisco called Return of the Cipher. Live
ROTC,
band.
baby.
That's right. You already
Yeah.
know the vibes. So that was the opportunity for me to really just kind of get a sense of who's who and what's what in terms of Bay Area underground hip hop. And like everybody else, I started just coming to get on the mic and spit for 1 minute and whatever the case is. Within 2 months of my first time there, I was already a featured artist. By the end of the year, I was already hosting, and within 2 years, I was one of the directors. Um, and that just speaks to just kind of the growth, but not only the growth, but people recognizing my talent, the reciprocal relationship of giving opportunities to other artists and really just trying to be a fixture in the community. But had it not been for ROTC and just learning how to be a performer and really getting it in, like really refining my skills as a performer, as a songwriter, all of that, the trajectory wouldn't have been what it ended up being. You know what I'm
No
saying?
doubt.
So shout out to the Bay Area for all they support. And
True indeed.
now here we are.
Man, the only time I ever performed in San Francisco was at ROTC, and that was actually me and Lil Flower Nasty were at back then. I only knew her as Sarah with the camera. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
She was part of the
yeah.
connection that kind of got me to come down there. So I came down and rocked. So I wanted to ask you, being that you was a part of it, are there any designs at all of perhaps bringing it back, or are they just kind of
Nah, yo, it was an era that I'm extremely grateful for. Everybody who participated, I'm sure, was really grateful for that era. I don't think there's any designs of bringing it back. And there's a lot of different reasons. Some I can go into, others I can't. But the ones that I can go into is suffice it to say, we're in an era and we're in a climate now, right? Particularly with like venues and making sure that venues can provide spaces for local hip hop to thrive.
No doubt.
That's increasingly harder in a gentrified city like San Francisco and Oakland. Like what it's becoming now is really catering to a demographic that doesn't really care about local artistry or local hip hop or underground
Mm,
hip hop or hearing new voices or whatever the case is. So right before the pandemic, like the tail end of ROTC as just like an event and a movement, it was really just kind of getting difficult to kind of work with the venue who needs to make money. And
right.
the problem that I'm seeing in like local artist communities, it's not just the Bay Area, but all over the places. Everybody wants to rap and everybody wants to be in the venue. Nobody wants to support, right? With their dollars, with their actual money to be an economically viable force within the community that you're at. So when you
Absolutely.
have 50 rappers or more coming in just to rap, they don't buy drinks, we're not charging you a cover, there's no money to be made. So now the
Facts.
venue is looking at the event like, why are we doing this if nobody is spending money here? You know what I mean?
Mm,
So
yeah.
enter the pandemic, and coming out of the pandemic, coming out of shelter in place, the venue is on some, well, we looked at our books, and right now, because venues are dropping left and right, we need to make sure that we can make money, and this is not an event that is going to be profitable for us. So like
Yeah.
that's, it's no different than having a TV show with lower ratings. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? You can't
No
get the
doubt.
advertisers in, and it just doesn't work. So as much as it was a force within our culture, and was as much as it was a force within the Bay Area music scene, it wasn't being really supported by the artists who were participating in the way that it could have been and should have been. And this is just a
Right.
lesson. You know what I'm saying? This is not a criticism on anybody or anything particular. It's a lesson for not only us in the Bay Area, but around the world. If you want to support local hip hop, support it with your dollars. Buy merch, buy a drink at the venue, spend the cover charge, like keep the event going. And if you don't
Yes.
have that level of support, then it's not going to grow and thrive. And then everybody's going to be hitting you like, yo, what happened to ROTC? That's what happened to ROTC. You feel me? So that's what
Just
it
so
is.
you
But
know,
yeah,
that's getting ready to be a clip right there because everybody need to hear that. Like we
for
have a
real.
we have to have an understanding as independent underground artists that even that is a part of the music business. It's still a business. It don't move without
Right.
if we're not making no money, it don't move. And that's why so many artists that were indie artists that we thought was so dope fizzled out and disappeared because nobody was buying. They was like, "Yo, he's so dope, and I love to come see him perform at a free show, and I love to go stream his music on Spotify 100 times, even though he's only going to make $3 off of that." Like
Right.
that's the type of stuff that they be on. Like case in point, I just dropped 3 projects in December, all on Bandcamp,
Okay,
and
solid.
because I dropped them on Bandcamp, the numbers weren't what I expected. But I
Right.
guarantee you, as soon as they hit streaming, it's gonna go crazy. So I'm like, I get it, man.
Yeah, and it's, you know what I'm saying, it's interesting, and it's a good segue into talking about the God that sins. But like in terms of just support, right? Like this is the first project that I ever put on Bandcamp before I put it on streaming, and I really
Mm,
wanted to do it just to kind of gauge as an artist, as an independent artist who is trying to continue to garner an audience and really try to create a movement and a community around the people who support my music. How do I give back to my fans? And it really came down to like, all right, I'm gonna put this on Bandcamp for the first week, and I'm gonna directly email, text, or DM people who I know are fans of my music. If you've
no
ever
doubt.
commented on a post, if you ever liked a status update, whatever, and I went and I was grateful. Like, yo, I appreciate all of your engagement and support over the years. Here's my new album. Pay what you want, right?
No doubt.
That one move within the first week gave me my most of my marketing budget for the rest of this album. You know what I'm saying? In terms of like just people wanting to support, because I don't really ask for much. I've been putting in work in the music industry for decades. More particularly in the Bay Area, I've been putting in work and not asking for much other than
Right.
people just kind of paying attention and listening. So I think most of my career as an artist, especially in the Bay Area, has just been brand awareness, not even asking to get paid. Yes, I do get paid in
Mm,
certain instances, but it was just more like this is hip hop and we just doing this for the people.
no
You know what I'm
doubt.
saying? But now, as you try to reach these upper echelons of your music being visible and gaining an audience, you got to start playing the game to one degree or another, even if it's just Bandcamp, even if it's just the local venue down the block that wants to make you the headliner for the show on Friday. It's like, we got to bring people in here so that we support each other and they can see that we are an economically viable force. And if you can't
Yes.
put the money up, then you can't expect the local artists that you love to thrive and to really
And
do what they
it's
need to do to gain the visibility, to gain the audience. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people will blame it on the landscape, the mumble rap, the 808s. They'll blame it on the sonics of it, but true school hip hop is still there's a market for it. You know what I'm saying? I did a sold out show with the Locks not too long ago. Sold out. Locks haven't dropped a real album in years, but they are a
Years.
legacy act that has cachet, and people are still willing to support that. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? I don't see that same level of energy on the West Coast. In certain cases, you do have your legacy acts that can still sell out shows. The Too Shorts of the world, the E40s of the world, you know what I'm saying? They can still blow it up. You know,
Facts.
Zion I, rest in peace, before they passed, was still going to doing festivals and really getting it popping. So there's artists who know how to do that. But behind all of the scenes and the music, there is a team. There is a movement. There is people who are there to run promotion, to run tour booking, to do all the things. And if you are an artist and not being mindful of the fact that there are teams and there is a way to do it to gain your audience, then you're creating a disservice for yourself. But that lack of understanding is going to damage the local artist community that you want to grow and thrive. You know what I mean?
Facts.
So it's important
Facts.
for people to support with their money, but not only just their money, but sharing the work. If you appreciate it, you want people to share. Like you just, if it's dope, share it. You know what I'm saying? Like I before. I mean, we're about to launch a 24/7 radio station with the organization that I work with, Hip Hop for
Hip
Change.
hop for change. Yes. I
Prior
was
to
gonna ask
that,
you about that.
yeah, we'll get into it more. But
Yeah,
prior to
definitely.
that, I was on the radio, on FM radio, every Sunday or every other Sunday, playing local artists, right?
Oh,
Asking, like literally DMing artists, yo, send me a radio edit of your music, like asking them for it and not getting anything. And then here it is. I'm on the hour on the radio 3 hours a day playing nothing but local independent hip hop. And then people were like, I see comments on Facebook, oh, I get no love in my city, I get no support. It's like, well, you don't even have a radio edit to get the record played that we asked you for. So it just becomes a situation of artists individually, but then collectively getting in their own way and then not knowing how to navigate through the game of it, if you want to call it that.
oh, it's definitely a game, and I think that a lot of times people lose in the game because they don't realize what they're playing exactly. They think they're playing
Exactly.
one game and it's a whole different thing. I don't care
Yeah,
how
and I
good you
think
rap. Like how good you
exactly
rap is only one part of it. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's everything
100%.
else to go with it is it's all got to go together.
It's artistry and your creativity that you invoke to create your raps, to write your rhymes, should be the same creativity that you tap into to ideate on your artwork, to ideate on your marketing plan, to ideate on what your show performance is going to be. Like it's the same hustle. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're
Oh
not
yeah.
writing words doesn't mean it's less creative. It's just a different, so I think a lot of artists, especially older artists who may not have gotten their break and they're still trying to actively do it, they're still rooted in this merit-based kind of gratification. Like I'm
Yes.
dope, so you gotta discover me and give me opportunity. And it's like, fam, we're way past that. That was like
Way.
the 90s, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that was
And the early 90s at that.
the very early 90s. That was like youngins like me in 94 getting put in the studio because I said a dope verse on a block party, right? That kind of situation don't work like that anymore. You got to really be actively moving and having and creating motion for yourself for other people to look at it and be like, yo, okay, I see the momentum building. You know
No
what I
doubt.
mean? And that's
No
that's
doubt.
important for artists to recognize.
So we gotta go there. The God that
Okay.
sins. Bro, listen. I'm gonna tell
Mm-hmm.
you something good. I know a lot of
Okay.
independent artists and they get dope features on their projects. So, but you
Yeah.
now I went back on Spotify and listened to some of your older work as well. Um,
Yeah.
and what I did was I did it in chronological order, at least the way it's listed. And I was like, okay, I see the progression from here to here. The God that sins is like if I took the best parts of everything that came before it and balled them
Yeah.
up and then put icing on top with a cherry, that's this album. Like
Yeah.
you got Ghostface Killer on your album.
Yes, sir.
You got
Yes,
Mr. Supreme
sir.
Clientele himself on your album.
Yes, sir.
You feel me? Like,
Easily one of the biggest accomplishments I've ever gotten as an artist. I'm eternally grateful for Ghostface and laying that verse and just serving as an inspiration to me my entire life. Right? Like
yes.
But yeah, I think for me it was really intentional, right? I dropped the album a couple years back called Crowns, and then I dropped the deluxe. And on the deluxe, I tapped people like Locksmith, I tapped like Nems was on that record. Love the Genius from Drum Work Music and Griselda Team. Like I picked them ones that was like my man Jag from LA. Like looking at the field and looking at the landscape and saying, all right, well, not only are these artists with motion, but these are artists who are lyricists. These are artists
Yes.
who, when people have conversations, if I'm entered into the conversation, they're putting me in conversations with a locksmith or a Sky Zoo or whatever the case. Like that's the field I'm playing in. So why not? Let's play together. Let's get on these
Yes.
records and let's dance. You feel me? So like I have a record with Sky Zoo. Shout out to Sky. That's my guy. One of the very few artists in this industry that you are reassured in terms of how you perceive him. You're reassured when you meet him. One of the humblest dudes and one of the
Yes.
nicest and most slept on pens, really,
Oh
in
man,
terms
yeah,
of his
absolutely.
abilities. And when I made the beat itself for the record, I made it with him in mind. I said, this sounds like a Sky Zoo record. And I'm gonna go out of, what I'm saying? We brought him out to Oakland. Like the first time he ever performed in the Bay Area, it was from my album release party for an album I got called Universes. And
Wow.
we just developed a relationship from there, right? And that was 2018, right? We put out that record in 2021. So it was really just like building relationships to get to the point where you're just like, yo, can you get on this record? And like seeing, and that pretty much was for the most part, most of the artists that I've worked with or featured or had featured, it was relationship building. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Royce the 5'9" is on this album. He
I was
produced
just
a
getting ready to talk about
remix.
that.
He produced a remix for the record I have with Benny, right? So just building on these kind of
Mm.
relationships is key, and then working with people behind the scenes because not everybody gets a Ghostface verse. You know what I'm
Ooh.
saying? Like you got to know a person to know a person. I've met Ghostface several times. We've had several interactions that were always positive and always cool. And it's also making sure that you have the right record for it. I wasn't just gonna
Yes.
get a feature just for the sake of getting a feature. Like this record sounded like, all right, I need a Ghostface verse. And you know what I'm saying? And I needed him to talk his talk on it. It wasn't just like a verse. It was like,
Oh
let
yeah,
go
he
into this
he
like
went crazy. Yo. He went crazy. I was like,
you
oh
know
my
what I mean?
God.
So yeah, so it was so in terms of like the entire project, what I wanted to convey is like, yo, let me get into rapper brain. I also make beats, but I didn't make as many beats for this project. Let me really focus on rapper brain and let me put myself on songs with the people I admire the most who are going to bring the best out of me. And it's not only for my own just gratification of being on a song with an artist that I love and admire, but it's also to communicate to my fans and the people who are interested. I can write and rap at this level. I'm not going to
Yes.
get washed. It's not going to be a feature where the mix is bad. And you know what I'm saying? Like you just know it's kind of for it. It's like, no, we're going to make sure the mix is right. I'm going to make sure my verse is tighter than it's ever been. And we're going to go crazy. And I'm seeing the response. You know what I'm saying? Like the Uncanny Behavior record with Ghostface, it hit 24 on the iTunes charts on Thursday. Like that's the first time I've ever charted. It's
Fire.
still doing numbers and it's still, and this is boom bap hip hop. So it's not like something else. It's not like, yo, we just got on a trap record and I brought Dirk in or something. It's like, no, this is
Nah.
golden era feeling hip hop that still can chart and still be successful and people still want. So I'm extremely excited and happy about all the features that we have on the joint.
Bro, you said Royce the 5'9", and the joint on God's favorite. You got Royce the 5'9", but you got one of my favorite, rest in peace,
Yes.
one of my favorite rappers in the entire world, Sean Price. I gotta know
Yes.
how you get that P verse, man. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. It was one of those things where, okay, relationships, if there's anything I'm gonna emphasize in terms of like crafting an album or a song that's effective that connects with people is having the relationships and making sure it sounds as organic as possible.
No doubt.
One relationship that I appreciate is my man Rusty Jux, who is like Sean P's protege.
Jokes, no doubt.
The history of it is I've known Rusty Jux since I was 16 years old.
Oh
we
wow.
like
Okay.
we were put in studio sessions with my man East Flatbush Project. He was a producer. He's produced for Jay-Z, Source Money. He's produced for a lot of dudes, but this was back in the 90s. And I always remembered his name from the sessions that we was in. And I just happened to come across him. We have a lot of mutual friends, and then he obviously knows Sean P's widow.
No doubt.
Bernadette, shout out to
Bernadette, no
Bernadette.
doubt, for
You know,
sure.
we know I know a lot of other people within the boot camp clique, like camp and family and whatever the case is. One of the very first big shows I ever did years ago was with Lyricist Lounge. They was doing a club series tour, and the first show I did was at SOB's in New York City, opening up for Boot Camp Clique. So
Oh man,
there's just a lot of history in terms of like me and like my come up as a kid and Brooklyn and all of that. So it was easy to kind of make those moves to get that verse,
no
right?
doubt.
Sean P, just like you just said, is one of my favorite MCs. I think I spent 2 years of my high school trying to sound like Sean P.
Hey.
Right, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like just like when he was Ruck from Ruck and Rock, Helter
Yes.
Skelter era, like LaFleur, LaFly,
Yeah.
Skoshka, like you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Before
yes,
any of the
y'all.
other stuff, you know, exactly. He just him and Rock had the best voices ever, and I
Ever.
love their dynamic, all of this shit. So, and he was just a funny personality. He was giving you raw underground hip hop, but was a character.
Yes.
And I wanted that. I needed that energy on something, you know what I'm saying? And if I'm calling the album The God That Sins, and I'm kind of referencing the God that sins who I'm talking about is me, my
No doubt.
favorites, God's favorites, or God's favorite is Sean P. and Royce. And to have a posse cut with them, like to be on that kind of energy, I like it made for a special moment. And I'm really glad that I was able to get that verse, for it to be put out, for us to for people to be responding the way they're
Man.
responding. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
To give Sean P the credit that he deserves and put him back in conversations, that to me is important.
I feel like if you hear that record and you don't respond, you can't even say you love hip hop. Like that,
Right.
that's just the way I look at it because I feel like there's certain songs that you hear that just remind you of why you fell in love with the culture in the first place. And
And
like
that, yeah,
I'm gonna keep it 1,000 with you. I kind of was in a rut. I'm doing an album with Drugs Beats, and I was
oh
kind of in
dope.
a rut. I was in a rut until I heard The God That Sins, and it broke me out
Oh
of my
man,
rut. I was like,
that's
yo, yeah, I know what I need to
let's
do now.
go.
I got you. I know what I need to do now.
That's
I
what
got you.
that to me, what you just said right there is more important than anything else. I don't give a fuck about a Spotify number. If I could tap into somebody's like inspiration and like, yo, now I got the juice in my pack to go and do the thing. Let's go. Like, dude, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what we're here for. It's just a kind of extended cipher, no different than like when we're in a cipher and you hear a dope verse in a cipher and it gets you on your game. It's a collective cipher. Hip hop is still a culture. We still
Facts.
lyricists at the end of the day. We have that 15-year-old version of us is still wanting to get active. But we need sometimes you need that like extra push. And I'm
Yes.
glad I could provide that to you, brother. Thank you for that.
Bro,
Appreciate
you
that.
I just want to and I'm gonna say this too because you are one of the people you and Little Brother when they first came out
Mm,
that surprised me on stage because my automatic assumption generally now there are exceptions to this rule obviously and
mm.
you being one of them you're not a little brother you know what I'm saying
Nah,
but you
nah, I'm a
get on
big
stage
dude.
and you give it 140,000% and I was just like
100.
that this right here is giving me because I have a tendency to go too hard on stage sometimes because I'm trying to make a point you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying and you showed me I saw in you, I see a lot of me when I watch you. That's why I was like, yo, I get this completely. And the way
yeah,
that you
real
control it,
recognize real.
you don't go
Mm-hmm.
too crazy. You keep it here. The energy's there, but you keep it right here. Boom. I need you to
Mm-hmm.
hear what I'm saying to you. You know what I'm saying? I need you to
Right.
hear what I'm saying to you and feel the energy. And let's lock in and have a moment. You created a moment at that show. You know what I'm
And
saying?
that's the key. No, and I appreciate that. And shout out to you too. Like of all the openers and whatever the case is, and we've been, we have mutual friends, so I've
No
been
doubt.
familiar. So to see you live and to hear your beat selection, it's like I'm like, all right, he's cut from this cloth. I get it. Like I see it. You know what I'm saying? I see it. Like I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing. He knows the opportunity. He sees in the moment. He going crazy. Like he going crazy. That whatever record you had with the friend sample fucked me up. Fuck me. I sit with my girl and watch fucking Friends like almost every other night. So
Oh
for me to
man.
hear it, I was like, yo, this is crazy. So like, nah, so shout out to you. But performing is like the most essential part of what we do as lyricists and as MCs, right?
Yes.
And regardless of, you know what I'm saying, and I'm trying to cut out the sugar and go to I was in the gym today trying to like, I got 100 pounds to cut, right? Like that's health and wealth is really my mindset as I'm in my 40s and as I'm getting older. And continuing with the fact that I'm getting as much visibility now, more so than at any other point in my career, gives me the drive to say, yo, you need to really get your thing together because you got to retrofit yourself for the life that you want. With that
Facts.
said, it's like I've always been a big dude. I've always struggled with my weight, but the dedication and the hunger is always there. And when I get on stage, it's I have a point to prove. Some of these people have never heard of me before, right? They're not even
Indeed.
here for me. So I have to make sure that I have an impact, and that is about crafting a stage experience that is going to trend. Like I want them to watch what I'm doing and be like, "This is what I came for." It doesn't matter who the person is. The energy is what I came for. I came to do call
Yes.
and response. I came to put my hands up. I came to listen to dope beats and lyrics and watch an MC tear it down in the same spirit of a Biggie or a KRS or any artist you admire. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
I could put my show performance, your show performance against any of these mainstream artists or some of these legacy acts, and we right there. Like it's not, you know what I'm saying? The only thing we lack is awareness and people and people knowing our music.
The
If
song
I get in front
recognition,
of a
yeah.
yeah, like I did a show with Marlon Craft not too long ago. Shout out to Marlon Craft. It was
No
one of
doubt.
the very first shows where I had fans in the stage that knew my lyrics. So when I got on, it changed the entire dynamic for me.
Oh
So
yeah.
I told myself if I could get to that space where I'm doing a show in front of 200, 300 people, even 1,000 people, and they know my lyrics, we looking at a completely different show.
Oh yeah.
But in order to get to that point, I got to start working here and making sure that anytime I get on stage, regardless of whether or not people know me or not, that it's impactful and that it means something. To your point of what you said about creating that moment, right? Hip hop is about moments, right?
Facts.
We know
Yes,
where
indeed.
we remember where we were when we heard certain records. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yes.
We remember where we
Yes.
were when we saw certain artists perform, whether we knew them or not. I remember exactly where I was when I first watched Jay Electronica perform before Exhibit C came out and all of that. Just a regular
Jeez.
dude on the Rock the Bells tour opening up when there was nobody in the seats. Completely blew my mind away. Did a cipher at the end, walked around the crowd, did ciphers with niggas like rapping, you know. So I follow his career now actively because of that. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of whether
Absolutely.
or not he wants to put out records, it's a whole different conversation. But you remember those kind of moments. I always want people to remember me in those kind of ways, like to have that, you know, because what you're responding to is not just me. You're responding to hip hop. You're
Facts.
responding to the hip hop
Yes.
that we are cut from, that still needs to be reintroduced to this audience now that's going out to concerts and all of that.
Mm. That reminds me of when I was young, the neighborhood I grew up in. Me and Keith Murray came up in the same neighborhood. Keith Murray, JVC Forces
Okay.
was not far around the way, so Strong Island was like our anthem growing up.
Okay, for
And of
sure.
course we had De La Soul, Rakim. So the one thing that a lot of people miss, and I was like, New York City gets so much love. I was like, y'all never recognize how much dope shit came from Long Island, but like that was part of my
No,
motivation too,
100.
though, to say,
Rakim, isn't
hey,
Rakim from Long Island?
yeah, wine dance, no
What
doubt,
we
yeah.
talking? Yeah, you know what I'm
No
saying?
doubt.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that was one of my motivations was to say, okay, I understand and I love it. And I lived in Brooklyn for a while too, so I love New York
Mm-hmm.
City, but I never want people to forget Long Island's contribution to this. You know what I'm
Nah,
saying? So
100%.
I make it an
Very much slept on.
active part of what I do. Yeah. So I mean, like at this juncture, people that I know who know your name associate you with the Bay Area. Like
Hmm.
most of a couple of people I mentioned your name to, they said, yeah, he's from the Bay, right? I was like, well, I know he lived there. He's not from there, but yeah, he lived there.
Yeah, I always like
Um,
to say Bay Area based, right? Because
yeah,
I'm a New York cat for real,
no
for real.
doubt.
But
I mean,
yeah,
okay, I gotta ask you this. I gotta ask you this. In the
sure.
process of making this album, and we
Yes,
all
sir.
got one. In the process of making this album, what song was the most fun to do?
Oh, the song that was the most fun to do. Now I got to run through the catalog. Streets Get Fed. Streets
Mm,
Get Fed was one of the last songs we recorded. The beat, shout out to Buck Roll Beats, who produced the record. But man, I love that beat so much. It sounds like a New York East Coast anthem a little bit. It has 808, so it has this more relevant or what we consider relevant feel to it. So I had to like approach it with caution. You ever had a beat that was like intimidating almost? Like, yo, I don't even know. Like I want to like go crazy on this, but I gotta like figure out some like something swaggy to go with it. So as I'm like putting it together, I knew I wanted the hold up, wait a minute. I wanted so that yeah. So then as we're laying that, I remember the and I was like, oh shit. I'm putting that in the front just to like echo, and I wanted it to sound like Kanye West style, like you're getting these old sound clips that are mixed with something sonically new and it's harkening back to
Mm,
something older, but still has something futuristic to share. So I kind of wanted to do that, and then I kind of layered Joe Budden. If you listen to Joe Budden podcast, he'll play
of
him
course.
song and he'll go, "Wait a minute," and I
Yeah.
just connected the dots. So I was in my DJ bag when I was putting this
Facts.
together. I was, you know what I'm saying? I taught myself to DJ a couple years back, so I was in a DJ bag when I'm producing the record. I didn't make the beat, but I produced the record.
Right.
Right. So even before I'm writing verses on it, I'm putting together these sound clips and making sure it has this bop that can be played in the club, but it could also be like real lyrical. Like it's in a
Mm,
this specific kind of pocket. And then I did the verses, and the verses went crazy, but they still had a bop. Like I was trying to like evoke a all the way up Fat Joe style like approach to it,
mm.
where there is a lyricism to it, but there's also a cadence, there's a freshness, there's a like, you know what I mean? So that's that.
Yeah.
So when and again, it was one of the final songs. Like I think I had maybe two other songs left after recording that one, and it was just fun. Like I hear it in the big speakers in the studio, and we're just going like, "Oh shit!" Like what? Like it was a
Yeah.
had what well, me and my friend Steph Reed, shout out Steph Reed, we call it when the song got motion to it, where it makes you want to dance, even though it's like some grimy kind of hip hop. We're gonna shoot a video for that one, but that was the most fun.
Yes.
That was the most fun record that we did. I think outside of that, Source Awards, which is the bonus track.
Mm.
It was the
Yes.
first. It was the first record I recorded. I'd actually recorded that like almost 2 years ago. It was no a little bit over a year ago. Shout out to Entourage Studios in Hollywood. And usually when I record, it's really just me and my engineer, my man Wash. We just lock in. This was one of the very few studio sessions where I let people come in, right, and
Ah.
hang out. So I had people in the studio, and we were just catching a vibe. Like we were all just chilling, talking shit, smoking, like having a good time, right? So like in the beginning, when I go, "Can I get a year?" You hear just my whole crew just saying "year," like it was just like a good time. And when we recognized when that hook went on, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I got zero chill. We knew I knew we had one. Like I knew like yo, this when I perform this is gonna go fucking nuts. Like I
And
was
it did.
super
And it
excited,
did.
super excited. Yeah, so I would say those two records are the ones that were like the most fun. Even now, they're the most fun to perform. Like I've been performing Source Awards for the entire year since I created it. I just did my last show last year was with Raekwon in San Francisco, and that was the first time I performed Streets Get Fed. And I mean, it was a huge audience. Like we're talking like 1,000 cap venue, big screen with my name on it, logo and all that shit. Like it rang off the way it needed to ring off, and I was really happy with that. But yeah, both of those records was fun as shit to record.
Yo, that's dope.
Yeah,
That's super fucking dope. So I
yeah.
mean, you planning on touring or anything, or you?
I'm putting together a tour right now. We figure out the route. I have, it's there's a big surprise put as part of it, so I'm gonna keep that on the hush. But we're putting together the dates right now. I think it's gonna be most of February. You know what I'm saying? At least 8 dates. Nothing too crazy, because like that's I'm still trying to like figure out this touring thing and
No
like
doubt.
where to go, who to speak to. I'm like all of that stuff. So we're putting together the tour right now, and it'll be a world tour. I can say that. We're gonna try to go to other countries with this because I'm looking at the impact that I'm having in other countries, and I'm seeing like, all right, I think they might be ready for what we got to give them. So
I mean,
I'm betting on myself and
the
make it
music
happen.
that we make, the music we make definitely has a more staying power overseas, I think. And I
One
think it's
hundred,
because
no, 100%.
they still have a great respect
They
for
still
that
have a sense
sound.
of cultural. They have a sense of our cultural context, which is
Yes.
unfortunate in our industry, right? Mainstream hip hop music in America has become pop, right? I just saw this clip that's been going around about Mos Def or
Oh
Yasin
yeah.
Bey talking about Drake, right? What's I think what's lost in that conversation is that hip hop is now pop music. We
Yes.
forget that. Like it is now the most streamed genre of music on the planet Earth, right? And with that comes certain artists and certain brands of the artistry that aren't going to be foundational to what we grew up with. It's
Right.
not going to sound the same. It's going to have a different text. And when you have an artist who's as versatile as a Drake, it's going to sound different than if you're listening to a Yasin Bey or a Talib Kweli or even Little Brother for that matter, right? Who's a very
Yes.
much who influenced Drake.
Drake.
Drake
Yeah,
will tell
exactly.
you he was influenced by Little Brother. But that's just where we are in terms of the culture. But now, with that said, a lot of that goes on without cultural context. So kids are being who are engaging in hip hop culture, and they're listening to the music without knowing the history and without knowing the details of where it comes from. Whereas in Europe, they're literally just still getting exposed to the golden era in many respects. What they
Yes.
came up with is still that golden era hip hop that now, if you're in your 40s, you taught your kids that. And those kids are now going to the shows. And this is why artists like a Razkaz or artists like Little Brother or some of the underground favorites that we have, we don't really hear a lot of them here. But
Right.
out in those countries, Germany, Paris,
They're
that's
going
what they're listening to.
crazy.
They're
Yeah.
going nuts. You know what I'm saying? This is where Griselda's getting their money. Like if you're listening for boom bap, substance, lyrics, show performance, traditional hip hop, you're gonna go to LA, or you're not gonna go to, you're gonna go to Europe.
Yeah.
And people have been telling me for years, yo, you need to go to Europe. Everybody's been telling me for years, yo, you need to be in Europe. So we're gonna try it out.
No doubt.
We
Edom
gotta try it
Assassin be
out and
saying the
see.
same shit to me all the time.
It,
Edom
yeah,
Assassin be like, get out of here and go over there already. What are you doing?
I
I'm
think,
like,
yeah, because I think you tap in with a couple good markets, you'll be able to make your money the way that you think you can make your money. And at that point, you're not even care about the States. You know what I'm saying? I still want to care about the States. I still want to like make an impact out here. But if I
obviously.
can go out there and still get the love and do what I need to do, then we're gonna do that. So we putting that together right now. Details coming very, very soon.
No doubt. If you come to Washington, you need an opener. You know, I got
No,
you.
no, no, no.
You know, I
You
got you.
all off the rip, bro. I'm trying to get some things going for sure.
Dude, I mean, hey, anywhere, really. I'll catch a flight. I don't give a fuck. But
Yeah.
tell me more about hip hop for change, because I'm definitely interested in that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, we so Hip Hop for Change. I'm the education director and acting executive director of Hip Hop for Change. We are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. We've been around 10 years. I've been doing hip hop education work for about 10 years. I started with this organization about 6 years ago, and I was the education director because I had already been doing that kind of work.
Right.
And it was a great opportunity for me to really flesh out the kind of curriculum that I wanted to give to young kids, right? Like really just giving the opportunity to like talk to the next generation of hip hop creatives and give them game and give them like tutelage and resources and all of that, but also creating a community based, what I call a community based counter narrative. Like we are the community based competition to the mainstream um, engine that is running, right? That is
Yes.
perpetuating specific stereotypes and archetypes that are putting a lot of our people, young kids of color, in jail or in the box. You know what I mean? Like we
Yes.
don't want that. So as a way to combat that, and there's a lot of conversations in hip hop culture about that. D1 just was calling out Rick Ross and Meek Mill about violence in their music and the hyper the murder raps and all of this stuff. We've been having in our culture, we've been having a crisis of conscience as it relates to the mainstream portrayal of hyperviolence and misogyny within hip hop, and what is the more culturally responsive brand of hip hop that is about lyrics and depth and introspection. And it's like, well, how can we come into like a middle road of it? It starts with the kids and the consumers, right? I was
Mm,
all of 10 years old when I first started getting involved in hip hop. And because of who I was listening to, that informed the way that I created my artist and my artist persona. Right, I
exactly.
was listening to the Nas's, the Rakims, the Big Daddy Kanes, the KRS Ones. So that's the cloth that I'm cut from. These kids got Dirk, they got King
King
Von, they got
Von.
Pop Smoke. Like they're listening to a different brand of artistry, and you can make your judgments about what they're bringing to the table. But if those kids don't know about the KRS Ones, if they don't know about what this culture started as from the Bronx and using hip hop parties to stop gang violence, if they don't know about that, they're not going to bring that with them when they're creating.
Very true.
So, as an organization, we're in schools, kindergarten through 12th grade, teaching kids the true history of hip hop, its foundational principles, and using that to have them engage the culture in a more informed space, right? That's going to
Yeah,
change
here.
the way they create and talk about what they want to talk about in their lyrics, right? Which is really just an internal experience that they're trying to express outwardly, right? A
Right.
lot of them, the kids that I teach often say they don't know how to write raps or they're not comfortable writing raps because they think they have to assume a violent persona in order to deliver a message. And I'm telling
Mm,
them, no, hip hop asks nothing of you other than for you to come as your most authentic self. If anything, it challenges you to amplify your most authentic self so you can be the best version of who you are in the most authentic and original and honest way. Not for you to come on and assume this gangster persona that you don't really come from, right? Not to scream and glorify poverty or robbing people when you was in a middle class background and had two parents in your house. Like, you can talk about that and you can be honest in your experience, and you're going to find an audience that connects with that story. It may not be everybody, but you're going to find your audience as long as you're authentic. And we are the only genre of music that really emphasizes originality and authenticity,
facts.
right?
Hell
We're
yeah.
not seeing a lot of that in our current landscape. We see a lot of copycatting and all of that. And that's the music industry for you. You can't be mad at it. It's just a different industry. I'm not in
Yes.
the industry, I'm in the culture, right?
That's the
By
difference.
virtue of
Yeah.
being in the culture, I get I'm in proximity to the industry, but I am a cultural public figure, not a music industry dude, right? And because I come from the culture, I know the history, and I know that young kids, if they understand the history, are going to approach things different. So we do assemblies, we do one-off workshops on all the elements of hip hop. So if kids want to learn how to break dance, I get some of the dopest break dancers in the Bay Area to pull up. If they want to learn more modern dance, we get the turfers, we get the poppers, the lockers. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoever's doing hip hop modern dance, you want to do TikTok dances, we'll get it in there as long as you're creating and being expressive. We'll get you graffiti artists, we'll get you fashion designers. Right? All of the elements of hip hop, not just relegated to beat I'm writing, but we have that too. We're building studios in Oakland that are going to be free for kids 24 years and younger, right? Giving them free studio time for them to get out what they need to get out. We have a film studio where you can do music videos and photo shoots and record content. We're creating the infrastructure and the ecosystem for young people to engage in this culture, to learn from local artists who are already doing the work, to be groomed by OGs, learning and having a sense of communal and cultural responsibility, so that when they're
Absolutely.
out in the world doing the work and doing being the artist themselves, they're doing it with a better sense of, okay, this is to empower our community and not so much to fulfill the bottom line of a corporation who's going to exploit
Mm,
us and drive us to either be in jail or be killed because we're perpetuating violent stereotypes of how white supremacy thinks black and brown people act, right? So
facts. Woo.
this is important. You know what I mean? So, I'm
Woo.
very proud of the work we do. Shout out to all my educator staff. Like, we hire local artists, and we're trying to expand it. So, we've been in the Bay Area 10 years. We're locking in a lot of really great partnerships. Shout out to Reebok, who's partnered with us. Shout out to California Department of Education, that's partnered with us recently. And now we're trying to build it so that this can go national, right? There are a lot of other artists who are doing this kind of hip hop education work around the country, and they're doing it by themselves without any sort of support or help or resources. And we're here to fill that gap and do that. So if you want to get a teacher, you want to help the youngins, Joe, you know what I'm saying? We'll get you in Washington doing it. We'll get you wherever, but for
Let's
sure, you know what
do
I'm
it.
saying? Just have people tap in with me. But like, that's where we're going with it.
Man, that is, and the funny thing about that, what you're saying, and the beauty of it actually is the one thing that people I've met on the West Coast always said was, well, the difference between us and where you come from is because of the way New York was the epicenter, and now and
Yeah,
the whole East Coast followed suit. So there was always everywhere you went on the East Coast, there was some kind of structure until you got to a certain point in the South, until a certain point. Like if there
yeah,
was an infrastructure in place for people to be able to create and do what they do. When I moved here, they was like, man, for a long time, it wasn't no studios. Like it was maybe one studio and it was expensive as hell and you couldn't afford to go to it and, all of these other things. And I was like, man, the West Coast never, other than LA, the West Coast really never had an infrastructure to give people the outlet to do what they're doing. So like,
exactly.
what you doing is, man, what y'all doing is amazing, bro. Like, and I
I
would really love
appreciate
to
that.
do something like that in Washington. We need more of that to keep these kids focused on what's important and not,
For
not
sure.
fall by the
For sure. I
wayside.
mean, you got some people, shout out to 206 Zulus. They try to do what they can up there and they have
No
their
doubt.
events and all of those things. But that to me is the real culture, right? I'm sure in your experience as an MC, there were people who gave you tutelage. There are people who believed in you, brought you to the studio, or helped you, may not have helped you develop your raps, but you rapped with them. Some dude that, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, I had a bunch of older homies who were nice, who were
Oh yeah.
like teaching me and putting me on. I had the other older homies who weren't rapping, but they were bringing me to the studios where I could meet, like, people who can help my career or help me come up, cut a demo or something like that. There was a lineage. Now kids don't
Yes.
have that. If they're lucky, they get a laptop with a microphone and they start recording in their house. And if that record goes viral, they would have become famous without any tutelage. So now you got the OG telling you, hey, young blood, maybe you want to watch out for this, that, and the third. Maybe you want to consider this. And they're like, why would I listen to you if you never helped me? Right? That creates the intergenerational divide that we keep having in the culture, because it's now so accessible. Kids can do it on their own, but I think we need to kind of find a way to build bridges between the generations so that we can help these young kids who are doing it on their own in their house recording records. All right. If
Yes.
you're talented and you already are locked into your talent, cool. What about the artist development? What about getting you to perform better? What about navigating through the pitfalls and not to be exploited by your lawyer, your accountant, the major label that you signed 5 albums to? Like, if there's nobody teaching you to avoid that, and all you're left is with your poverty and your emotional needs, that's where you're gonna get
Mm,
exploited. You know what I'm
yes.
saying? Because the poverty and the trauma you come from inform your emotional needs and your sense of urgency to get out of your situation. And it's really hard to tell an 18-year-old kid who has a viral record not to sign a $500,000 5 album deal when he need to get his mama out the projects.
That
And
part,
unless
man.
we as a culture have the infrastructure to provide an alternative, they're going to keep on making those decisions, keep on signing their rights away for the sake of likes, clicks, and clout.
Yes.
And the culture is going to continue to go the way that it's been going. But I
In
think we have a
perpetuity.
in perpetuity throughout
That
the rest of the
fucking word.
universe, right?
That
We
fucking
have a
word. I hate
unique
it.
opportunity now, especially on the heels of the 50th anniversary of hip hop, for us to really,
Yes.
as elder statesmen in the culture, whether we're good platinum artists or not, for us to be able to teach these young kids how to do it, and do it in the way that is most advantageous for us and our
Yes.
culture and our people, right? Because the executive at Sony, whose kids are in private school, it doesn't matter to them if we are shot and killed because of stereotypes that are placed on us, because of the inhumanity that people view us with. It doesn't matter to them, right? They'll find another artist to sign and get rich off of as soon as you self-destruct. But let's create an infrastructure so that we're not self-destructing, we're self-improving, right?
Indeed.
What do our artists look like when they run through a workforce development program that teaches them how to heal from their own trauma, that teaches them how to be financially responsible with money, right? That teaches them how to create and have a sense of communal responsibility, that once you quote unquote made it, you can come back and continue to help the environment that you come from so that they don't face
Yes.
the same problems. I think that we have a unique opportunity now more than ever to do that. We have the money in the industry, we have the money in the culture, we just don't have a lot of the will, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it just
Yes.
takes people to have their hearts softened by this kind of sense of responsibility, and we'll do it. So Hip Hop for Change is on the front line of that.
Man, that is awesome. Hey, kids, listen. I need y'all to pay attention. And I know, like, I peeped the analytics. We got some younger people that listen to the pod. So
For sure.
yeah, I need y'all to remember one thing. Everything that he said, I got a lot of clips to cut out of this one. You dropping
For
jewelry
sure.
right now, and I need for these young cats to hear it. It was a young brother that I was talking to. I'm gonna get ready to wrap. I gotta go pick my son up from work in a minute. But
For sure. Yeah.
I was just talking to a young brother. He's 22 years old. He's really dope. I put him on a few shows because I promote a monthly showcase up here, and
Mhm.
I put him on a few shows, and I was really happy for him when I saw that he was making moves and doing other shows, and getting internet radio, playing stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
was like, hey, bro, let me ask you a question. I said, they playing your music on internet radio. You got your sound exchange set up? He was like, what is Sound Exchange? I said, oh shit. All right, bro.
Bingo.
We got to go through it right now. So like I just sat him down and gave him a whole list of you need to, and if you need help with any of it, let me know. You know what I'm saying? And we'll get it done. Like you got to get your BMI ASCAP, whichever way you want to go. Yeah, Sound Exchange. Like I was just running down this whole list of things, and the whole time he's looking at me like, huh? What is that?
Yeah,
I was
because
like,
we're
bro,
again we are conditioned to do things for the look and for clout. We have
yes.
valued clout more so than money or ownership or equity. Those are more high-brained conversations that the young average artist doesn't have.
Right.
But there's a unique opportunity again to say, like, yo, ask yourself what, like, for example, everybody put out their Spotify numbers last year. Now, that's kind of tricky because as much as you want to celebrate yourself and communicate to the people who follow you that you did well, you're also giving Spotify more attention than necessary because they're able to monetize off of all of that attention, and we get
Mhm.
what fractions of a penny per stream, right? And everybody complains about streams. Everybody complains about fake streams or getting your music taken down for fake streams or whatever the case is. But it's like, well, are you registered on Sound Exchange? Do you have your publishing? Are you giving your music to DJs? Like I started asking them in my post a list of questions. If you haven't done these 9 things, then you can't really complain about lack of Spotify promotion or whatever the case. Like there's so many other ways to monetize, and you need to understand the business of this music. It's not just the cultural phenomenon of being nice, putting your music out and hoping that it catches a wave. There's
Right.
a calculated strategy behind everything. And if you want to be an artist and that is what you're out to do, I want to make a living off my art, or I want my art to at least pay for itself, there's a process to do that. But I think the problem is, and I was just telling an artist that I was working with earlier doing artist development, the problem is, as people of color, we have a problem in communicating our needs because it creates a vulnerability that we're not willing to expose ourselves as. So that's number one.
Mm-hmm.
We don't ask, right? And it says in the Bible, you should die for lack of knowledge, right? Like you're not asking for the information. Number two, these older MCs need to start giving up the information. Stop being a
Yes.
greedy information gatekeeper. And because homeboy got motion, you don't want to give them the tools for them to be more successful. So if you know the information, let's try to give it to the youngins so that they can actually survive and thrive. You know what I'm saying? So it's just we have to
Yes.
be able to give information out without expecting a fucking check or whatever. There's a time and a place for all of that. But I think when it comes down to doing it, quote unquote, for the culture, there's people who talk about it and there's people who are about it. And I want to align myself with the people who are about it by providing education for the young kids who want to do this work and information for the kids, for my contemporaries who are still trying to figure it all out. So
Oh
that they're
man.
not out here just doing viral, trying to go viral by doing clout chasey, you know what I'm saying, stuff on the internet. Like there's a better way to do this. And I think that we're on the verge of figuring that out if we can act smarter.
Absolutely. I 130,000% agree. Last question I gotta ask you though.
Yes.
Why you spell your name like that? With the big U and the big L.
Oh, good question. That's a really good question. Nah, for sure. Uh, it's like a like McNeil, right? Like that. It's like, you know what I
Okay.
mean? Just like because the word un is already kind of like a thing to reverse or to stop or to like be anti,
Right.
right? The proper noun is learn. So I think for me, like I've always seen it as unlearn. Like there would have been a dash in there had I really thought about it, but I wanted people to just recognize like we are all learning, and that's important to learn
Right.
about yourself, to learn about the world, whatever the case is. But it's also important to start removing the societal conditioning. A lot of the things that you've learned or agreed to. So the is just as important. But then more particularly, as I'm talking to you now, I'm realizing part of it is because when I was younger as an artist, I used to go by the rap name Unorthodox.
Ah.
That was my battle rap name. When I was going borough to borough, going into projects that I shouldn't have been in, battling cats, it was Unorthodox, right? Then as I started trying to get a record deal, I shortened it to just Un. My name is Marlon, right? So people just used to call me Un,
Ah.
right? So I used to, so now I was just Un for a long time. When I was trying to get a record deal in New York City, I was just Un, which didn't mean anything, right? It's a
Ah.
nickname. So then I was like, all right, well, now I'm gonna make it unlearn, right? So that's why it's the big U, the big L, because I'm still and I'm unlearning. That's the best answer I could give
Man,
you.
your name is dope. Your
Thank
music's
you, sir.
dope. Like you put it like you have the one craft, the one skill that I think a lot of artists lack, and that's the ability to build an entire project to make a statement that
Mhm.
you don't have to continuously say the statement. Like the music in and of itself tells the story for you.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, I
that's
appreciate that, brother.
powerful, bro.
Thank you for
That's
that.
powerful.
Thank you.
Tell the people how they can find you online, man, so they can lock in with this dope shit I'm listening to because
Absolutely.
y'all late to the party.
Un, Unlearn the World as It Sounds. You can check me out on every platform as it sounds. Unlearn the World. The God That Sins is a new album in your phone featuring Benny the Butcher, Ghostface Killer, Royce the 5'9", Sean Price, Steph Reed, Rizzo, a bunch of other up and coming artists. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. I promise you. And if you have any questions, ask my man Seven Da Pantha.
I got you. I
You know what
got
I'm
you, yo.
saying?
I got you.
I
Yo, bro, thank
appreciate
you.
you, bro. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
this.
I think what I'm thinking about doing is at some point in the future, I'm going to try to get a panel of 3 or 4 younger artists to come on the podcast and kind of start telling their stories. I would love to have you be a part of that conversation so we can maybe
Absolutely. Hit
drop some
me.
jewels on them.
Let's build.
I,
Continue for sure.
I got you, family. Most
All right.
definitely. Yo, y'all know what it is. Follow my man, Unlearn the World. You will not regret it. I promise you. Thank y'all so much for locking in. Thank y'all for all of y'all support of Pantha Politix Network. I am Seven Da Pantha, of course. Thank y'all for locking in the sidebars. We'll catch y'all the next time, y'all. One.
Peace, peace.
Yeah. 7 Barz. Y'all in trouble now, man. Let's go.